You know, we reject our crazies. It's time for you guys to reject him.
Okay.
Give me a crazy person, I'll reject him.
Yeah. Fox News host Greg Gutfeld is a totally sane and not crazy person. And he says it's time to reject the crazies because apparently rejecting crazies is a thing that Republicans do all the time. Jessica Tarlov, who is probably the most sane person at Fox News, gave Gutfeld what he wanted. She answered his question, but apparently he did not like the answer she gave him.
You know, we reject our crazies. It's time for you guys to reject him.
Okay.
Give me a crazy person, I'll reject him.
Donald Trump.
See, that's your problem. He's not crazy. That's your problem.
That is exactly the problem.
You think that
every metric was up when he was president. And you know what?
True. She's right. That's not true that every metric was up. And even if it was, that doesn't mean that he's not crazy. And also for Greg Gutfeld, just saying he's not crazy, that it doesn't prove that he's not crazy. But this is a totally normal person, I guess. Just take a look at this.
It's a shame. It's a shame. Missile launch, ping, boom. We are a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat.
Their leading political opponent, they're leading by a lot, including Obama. I'll tell you what.
These are not muscle guys here, they're muscle guys up here, right? And they calmly walk to a seat. Ding, 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 ding. God bless the United States.
Yeah, but then again, Trump proved that he's a totally sane person. He had evidence, right? He has proven evidence that he is sane. Did you hear about the cognitive test that he aced?
He hasn't taken any cognitive tests because he couldn't pass one. I actually took one when I very recently when I was, the radical left was saying, "Is he all there? Is he all there?" And I proved I was all there because I aced it.
I don't like being called stupid. Is there a test or something I can take to prove to these radical left maniacs that I'm much smarter than them? Is there a test? And he said, "Sir, there is a test. It's called the X test." I said, "What's it like?" He said, "Well, it gets very tough. The first questions are easy, and the middle of the test gets tough, and the end of the test is quite tough." I said, "How tough is this test, Ronnie? Because these people are calling me bad names. They calling me stupid. They're stupid, Ronnie, and we got to end this bull." And I took it, and I aced it.
He aced the test to see if he has dementia or not. So,
hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it.
Cenk, this is funny because the GOP actually did try to reject Trump at first, but they were unable to do so. So what is Gutfeld even talking about?
Yeah, look, I love this. I mean, you want to talk about crazy. Look, we can give you 1,000 Trump clips where he sounds like a total loon. But to me, the granddaddy of them all is when he's in the middle of that press conference during COVID and he looks at his doctors and he's like, the disinfectant, they say cleans it up. Maybe we put it inside our bodies. Come on, brother, come on. Disinfectant inside your bodies. And you're making fun of someone else being crazy? Come on. And when you talk about the tests, he's like, hey, is there a test I can take? Well, brother, you took a dementia test. And if you don't know that it was a dementia test and you thought it was an IQ test, you already failed. You just didn't know it. And by the way, there are other tests that sometimes, look, I don't think they're a great arbiter of it, but test some degree of intelligence. They're called tests in school. And that's why to this day, Donald Trump hides his college grades and his high school grades. Somebody once tried to get his high school grades, he threatened to arrest them. That's because if you find out his grades, you would see that he was a dum-dum. Now, why is that relevant? Well, first of all, I would hope that our president would be smart, but more to the point here, he's so embarrassed that his dad got him into all those schools. Because if you looked at his grades, you'd know he's a total failure. So he used daddy's money as a spoiled little brat to get into those schools. So that's why the only test he's ever passed is a dementia test. And did you hear him talking about how he took it recently, but he didn't want to put a date on it? Because I don't think he retook it. He's saying it as if he retook it. I think he took it back in when he was at the White House. That's why he keeps saying Ronnie, because that was Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who was the White House doctor at the time. So he only took it once, years ago, and he's still bragging that, oh my God, I aced it. I aced the dementia test. Aren't I a very stable genius? I mean, that's the other thing. The brother has said on many occasions that he's a very stable genius. Look, yes, let me ask you this. If you're at a bar, back when you were single, and a guy walks into the bar, comes up to you and says, I'm a very stable genius, what do you do?
Yeah, you run. That's not a normal thing to say. It's very creepy. And anyone who has to say you know what, I'll give you an example. If a guy, women always say that the best way to a woman's heart is to be funny. We like funny guys, right? And guys never believe it, but it's true. But a red flag is the guy who self-identifies as the funny guy, the funny one in the group. That's a red flag. That's no thank you. Don't want that. So if you have to tell me and I can't figure it out for myself, then that's not a good sign. I don't want it.
You know what? I once took a funny test. I aced it. I aced the funny test.
Undeniably funny. Yeah, it's not gonna work. So actually earlier this week, you reminded me of one of my favorite dumb Trump moments when he tried to change the trajectory of a hurricane with a Sharpie. And that was funny and ridiculous and crazy, but it had actual negative repercussions for people living in the states that were affected by that hurricane. Just because you draw it on a page with a Sharpie doesn't change where the actual hurricane is gonna go. You can't control a hurricane. And even the National Weather Service, they had to adjust their operations because Trump hurt his ego, because he just isn't smart and he couldn't handle being wrong. And I think not being able to admit that you're wrong is not a sign of intelligence at all.
Yeah, and overall though, let's not glide past Greg Gutfeld saying, oh, we call out our crazies. Are you nuts? Almost everybody in your party's crazy. Look, I can go old school. Like I remember when Louis Gohmert gave a speech about how Obama was trying to reconstitute the Ottoman Empire. And that the Ottoman Empire was going to come back and take America because of Barack Obama. We remain entirely unconquered by the Ottoman Empire, which left this planet well over 100 years ago. Louis Gohmert also said that if we passed Obamacare, that 20% of the women in America would die because of it. Luckily, we didn't lose 50 some odd million women. Okay. I mean, they're nuts. They're all nuts. And then you got Hershel Walker, who's another brand of crazy. Almost all their candidates are nuts.
We're actually going to get to Hershel Walker because the question now is, are there actually any crazies that the GOP has rejected? Well, let's start. I'll give you one. There was George Santos, who was voted out of Congress last year following a wave of problems and lies and alleged fraud.
Hey, token straight friends. I mean, I was a whole congressman up until last Friday. Could have just stopped by my office. Let's talk about Botox for a second. You can tell it works. I'm 35, don't look it. From rise to congressman to fallen diva, as they all say. I knew you were trouble when you walked in. That's me. Love that your siblings call you the chaos child because that's how I'm known in my house. So we have that in common. Period. Keep slaying, queen. Mwah.
Amazing. I'm 35. Maybe I should get some Botox. Santos was voted out of Congress, though, 311 to 114 votes. So I guess they rejected that one crazy. While a slim majority of the GOP did stand behind him, it was mostly for their own benefit because they couldn't spare to lose his seat in Congress. So then there's also Madison Cawthorn. You might remember him.
The sexual perversion that goes on in Washington. I mean, being kind of a young guy in Washington, but the average age is probably 60 or 70. And I look at all these people, a lot of them that I've looked up to through my life. I've always paid attention to politics, guys that, then all of a sudden you get invited to like, well, hey, we're gonna have kind of a sexual get together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, what did you just ask me to come to? Yeah. And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy.
Well, Cawthorn upset a lot of his former congressional colleagues with that comment, and the lingerie photos of him that came out a month before his reelection primary also did not make very many people happy in Washington. And this is former Deputy Chief of Staff to Mark Meadows, Wayne King, talking about Cawthorn. When asked ahead of the primary if there were any local GOP leaders or Republican strategists who liked Cawthorn and hoped to see him reelected, several state experts and politicians shared a similar answer. I can't think of anybody except the people that he's paying. And last but not least, as you mentioned, Cenk, we have Hershel Walker.
As they've been saying, something is better somewhere else. And I'm here to tell you it's not. So I've been telling this little story about this bull out in the field with 6 cows, and 3 of them are pregnant. So you know he got something going on. But all he cared about is kept his nose against the fence, looking at 3 other cows that didn't belong to him. Now all he had to do is eat grass. But no, he thought something was better somewhere else. So he decided, I want to get over there. So one day he measured that fence up and he said, I think I can jump this. So that day came where he got back. And he got back, and as he took off running, he dove over that fence and his belly got cut up onto the bottom. But as he made it over on the other side, he shook it off and got so excited about it. And he ran to the top of that hill, but when he got up there, he realized they were bulls too. So what I'm telling you, don't think something is better somewhere else.
Oh my goodness. I forgot about Hershel Walker and how crazy he was. Hershel Walker has pretty much disappeared from the political circle following his defeat to Raphael Warnock 2 years ago. This is Brittany Gibson at Politico. This is what she said. Walker had a glide path through the primary, but his campaign was dogged by multiple personal scandals, revealing children born out of wedlock and concealed abortions that undercut his conservative values campaign pitch. He was consistently out fundraised by Warnock, and his campaign strategy was undermined by Walker's own interference. But that's not what the GOP had an issue with. It was the fact that in May, it was reported that he was sitting on more than $4 million in leftover campaign funds with no intention of using it to help the GOP or Donald Trump in Georgia. And we now know that he could have used that money. Now, that doesn't mean that they've rejected all of their crazies on the Republican side. They still have Marjorie Taylor Greene. They still have Lauren Boebert, who is still trying to fight for her seat in Congress, and Matt Gaetz. They all still have jobs in Congress. And now the Republicans have put 2 of the craziest of them all right at the top of the Republican ticket. So Cenk, maybe they're just leaning into it.
Yeah, I was looking up old crazy Hershel Walker statements, and there's so many. But there's like random ones that I'm amused by. He claimed to be running 6 different hospitals in America. He doesn't run any hospitals. Who makes up a lie like that? That's amazing. And you know, you said he had multiple scandals. He also had multiple personalities. And I think one of them was a killer, if I remember right, but definitely committed assault. And so then I found this old quote and God, it's perfect for this story. He said, they told me, this is Hershel Walker, they told me I had a mental problem. I remember sitting there here in this hospital and going, whoa, these people here are crazy. I'm not like them. Brother, the fact that you're not like anyone else at the hospital might indicate something else. Okay. But on the other hand, who knows, maybe he owned the hospital.
Yeah, maybe he was running that hospital. And so it's whenever people make things up, I think I'm so bad at lying in my personal life or just in life that whenever people do it, I'm like, how did you even get there in your brain? How did you even think to say that to people out loud? And on the Republican side, we see it happen so effortlessly and so blatantly that it blows my mind, because so much of the things that they lie about are so easily disproven. Just a simple Google search would show that that doesn't make any sense. That's not true. That's not what happened. I was talking about JD Vance earlier, either on a show or on Rebel HQ, and he also had a lot of really shady things in his personal bio about what he studied in school and things like that. And it's like, why? We can fact check all of this.
Yeah, 100%. Last things I'll end on is, so number one, on Madison Cawthorn, to be fair to him, I thought he was crazy when he said the stuff about like 60, 70-year-olds inviting him to orgies. But then the Republicans caught so many feelings over that I thought, wait a minute, is it true?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So
they were just mad that he said it out loud.
Yeah, exactly. So they might have gotten rid of only one crazy guy, and that only after he voted in the way that they wanted him. That's George Santos. A whole bunch of times, and then after they were done with him, then they finally got rid of him. But we're the fairest show in America. We at least pointed that out. But of course, there are dozens and dozens of crazy Republicans they haven't gotten rid of, including Jewish space laser lady Marjorie Taylor Greene. But Gutfeld's like, you see how we got nobody crazy on our side? Whereas that guy, I mean, he got paid family leave passed, letting moms go home and take care of their babies instead of being forced back into the assembly lines and coal mines. That guy's crazy. If you say so, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was talking about before. It's something that's so brilliant about this Harris-Walz Democratic ticket is that the Republicans have to come out now and say that all these things that are wildly popular with so many Americans, most of Americans, they have to come out and say, oh, that's so weird that you like that you like paid family leave, that you like not having to work 80 hours a week, that you don't want your children to go back to work, and you don't like child labor. That's weird that you don't like child labor. So they really are kind of stuck in this circle that they can't get out of. It's a deep, deep well, and they dug it themselves.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.